David Whitley waiting in the orange and blue room. We got scores for you and more. Stay tuned. The Buddy Martin Show is on the air.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening and welcome to the program. I'm Buddy Martin. This is the Buddy Martin Show. Normally heard Monday through Thursdays right here on this channel and with sparkling guests like the one we're about to have in a moment, David Whitley and Lauren Meadows back from Ohio. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that later. I'll be out tomorrow night. I have an issue to take care of, but tomorrow night will be hosted by Brendan Martin, and he'll have his tribe on there. Which should be interesting. It'll have Kyle Curtis and Matt Quadraro and special guest Graham Hall tomorrow night on the program. So don't miss it. It'll be fun. It's eerily quiet, it seems like, lately, the last few days, and a lot of nothing going on, except if you're watching baseball and you like baseball. You got FSU, Florida. Not good news. Gators trail. I think it's the seventh inning now, 5-3. And I think they won. I would have to ask David, 14 last 7. Anyway, the baseball team needs to get their star player back here soon. And in the World Baseball Classic, which has turned out to be a really big surprise. I can't wait to talk to David Whitley about it because he's kind of a raconteur. He covers all sports, and he'll understand the significance of this game. I think they said 62 million people in Japan watching as Japan leads the United States tonight 3-1 in the, let's see, what is it, 6? I don't even know. I have to go back and check. Anyway, that's what's going on there. And spring practice is back. And we got a few people nibbling away at that. We'll have a little bit of conversation about that. Lauren will talk about it some. We've got the special stories in Gator Bait coming up here over the next couple of days. So thanks to all you folks who do, in fact, support Gator Bait. And we got Lauren Meadows and we got trivia tonight. So right now, let's just say hello to let's just bring in our sponsor, Titan MRI, and then David.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
All right, thanks very much, Jeff Cardozo. Good evening to all you folks there. Dan Bond, Danny Bond, Michael Burton, and the rest of you folks. Tony Permiter. All of our old reliables are on tonight. Many of them still on spring break, apparently, but it's kind of slow, but never slow when this guy's on. Always great to talk to him. A journalist by trade, and he could be a stand-up comic, probably, if he wanted to be by, I don't know, maybe. He's very dry. David, if you're going to be a stand-up comic, who would you be?
I would just be a sit-down comic. I'm too lazy to be a stand-up.
Okay, all right. So would it be Woody Allen? Would it be?
I would.
And just as we got that, David froze up. We missed you, David. Go ahead, say it again.
I've always admired Don Rickles.
Yeah.
Except that act wouldn't play today.
They would not. They'd throw you off the stage in the second joke because it's all about ethnic groups, So, yeah.
That's a whole nother topic, the death of humor, and how you can't you can't ruffle any feathers these days. So it's a tough time to be a comedian, or so they tell me.
Well, comedians like it dark, right?
Hmm. Well, that's you're there to push those people's buttons, and that's what a lot of comedy is. But people don't like to have the limits pushed these days. They
Yeah,
they,
not
they don't
not
want
black as
to
in color of
challenge.
skin, black as in dark. I want to make
Right,
push
right.
sure I
Oh
say the
yeah,
right thing because
that's
Rickles he'd be out of there in 2 seconds.
yeah. And
Hilarious.
another classic that wouldn't play at all. Is Foster Brooks playing a drunk.
He was awesome. It was awesome.
Oh, yeah. If any of your younger audience members want to just hilarious, look at those old Dean Martin roast with Foster Brooks and Don Rickles.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was an A-list of celebrities that would come and roast people. I mean, it's hard to believe that they had such star power, which was on a network TV show back doing this stuff. But
Henny
I mean,
Youngman, I mean, really, take
yeah,
my
and
wife,
Bob Hope,
please. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Bob Hope would be there. Sinatra. I mean, it was a who's who. They would just pop in to roast these guys, and it'd be like turn on the TV and having Matt Damon and Tom Hanks just up the roast. That stuff doesn't happen, and you certainly won't. You don't see anybody finding any comedy in people acting drunk these days. It's probably that's probably a good thing.
Yeah. By the way, the consensus. Well, Michael Burton says you'd be Bob Newhart, which is pretty good, by the way.
Oh, yes, he's an icon.
The subtle humor of George Gobel, one of my favorite. And I was reluctant. It's a slow night, so jump in, folks, and we'll talk sports eventually. And I'm sorry if you're not happy with. We're not talking recruiting at the moment, but we'll get plenty of that kind of talk later. But anyway, so it would be very, very interesting. I mean, to go back to Johnny Carson's days and that sofa and the people who sat there and the all-time classics. The one being Burt Reynolds, George Gobel, and I forget who the third person was on the sofa when they got into the shaving cream deal going on. It was crazy. And I remember Gobel sitting there, and who was the other comedian? A big comedian, whoever it was. And they asked Gobel something. He said, I feel like a pair of brown shoes with a tuxedo,
Right.
A great line. But there was so many great moments and funny. And Jonathan Winters, the ad-libbers, I used to love the ad-libbers, man. They were unbelievable. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to laugh, and I don't think we do enough of it, David. We were afraid to say things to make people laugh. It's the way it is. So speaking of sports, have you partaken of either the Florida State game tonight and the Gators? I think you may know this. I think they won 14 out of 17 against the Noles. Tonight they're getting beat. So about the seventh inning, it was 5-3. Somebody coached me up here. I can't see the TV. And the other one would be the World Baseball Classic, which now Japan leads 3-1. Which now I understand if you haven't seen it, don't know about it. I can understand why you wouldn't have any interest. But by all estimates, baseball people and otherwise, the rave reviews of this baseball, they're saying it's the best. I've heard several people say the best baseball games they ever saw the last couple of times. Dan Vine says it's 5-4 in his seventh, or eighth. I'm not sure which Florida Trails. And the quality. Did you watch any of it, David?
I've watched a little, and I'm like everybody else. They've had this thing before, and it got really no run at all. I mean, I guess the last time was 2017, and it was seen more as just sort of a sideshow, just concocted in sort of this pipe dream that MLB will popularize baseball. But it's been going on. It's hard to believe it's been going on for since 2006.
Yeah,
but. I don't know if absence made the heart grow or whatever, because it was supposed to go in 2020, but that wiped out COVID, and I forgot what last year's excuse was. So it's been 6 years, but so nobody was really expecting much out of this, but it is just it has been the surprise hit of the spring by far, and not so much in America until now. I think in the last week people are starting to notice it, but man, oh man, and they've really, and it's hard. It just my tongue gets tied saying that because Major League Baseball has made so many boneheaded moves over the years, as far as popular is just fallen behind is to modernize itself and just to have fan appeal. But it has apparently made all the right moves with this. I mean, the way it split up the brackets, where Japan hosted all those games in the Tokyo Dome, which the ratings there, as you mentioned earlier, are just astronomical. It's like every game has gotten actually larger than Super Bowl type ratings in Japan. I mean, we all know Japan's always been a big baseball thing, but the thing, it means so much to Japan, and it means so much to Mexico, and it means so much to the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, to not only to play each other, but certainly to play Uncle Sam and to beat Uncle Sam. And I mean, this gets the whole. This is beyond baseball to these people. This is like national. This is the Olympics for them. The same thing, same way we get when the Olympics comes around. I don't know. I don't think I'll ever change, because we're just ingrained, of course, to think this is sort of an exhibition game, and America's mindset is the World Series, obviously, and stuff like that. But this is something that is becoming harder and harder for even those who poo-poo it to ignore.
It really is. You're talking about Trey Turner, who hit another home run tonight. It's 5. I didn't know much about Trey Turner, but he won a batting title or 2. I don't follow baseball that closely. And he hit another one tonight, and he hit that dramatic one with the bases loaded whenever Venezuela was beating the United States of the night in the stadium at Miami. 30,000 people went crazy. It was like a soccer crowd. They were really nuts. And so I don't know why I've seen a baseball crowd excited like they accepted the World Series. Maybe it's the 6th game.
That's what it is. It almost feels like a Davis Cup tennis match in Brazil. Where you see where it's rowdy. And the normal rules don't apply, as far as fans cheering.
Or a World Cup match. I mean, it's that kind of atmosphere. It really is.
I mean, the spirit, and who'd have thought that
I didn't
usually,
see it.
usually, I mean, in mid-March, we're just yawning about baseball because it's just spring training results, and those are obviously meaningless. But people are excited about baseball, in the United States, but certainly everywhere else. And by any measure, you got to tip your hat to and say this thing is taken off. It's all part of, again, a long-term plan. I think they've got sort of NBA envy, and how the NBA, you think way back to the early Olympics with the Dream Team, and how Davis said, "Well, I want to popularize the sport around the world," and it took it. But now, I mean, you can see the results not only in NBA with so many international stars. But I remember when Florida played Tennessee this year. I think Tennessee had 4 foreigners in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
And that never. I mean, you never
look at the NBA. The NBA is
Oh yeah,
and loaded with foreign.
I mean,
by the way, they just got Ohtani out one of the third few times. The guy who's hit, you got him out. I argue the best player in all of baseball. He's the Babe Ruth today. He's pitcher and a designated hitter. Phenomenal player. I was just rave about him. Thought I got him out. He's got like 9. He had like 9 runs, 2 wins on the mound, 9 RBI. I don't know. He's killing it. Yeah. Trey Turner, I think, leads him in home runs. But anyway, that's really it's interesting. So it's still 3-1. Yeah. You're right, David. It caught us by surprise, and I don't want to talk too much about baseball tonight because people get bored with it, but we'll see what the score is of FSU and Florida. Let me just say one personal note about Japan, which nobody cares about. But if I were having a beer with you, I'd tell you this, okay? And when we were in Denver, my son tried to play baseball for 3 or 4 years. I was his coach. I played a little baseball. I walked on to Florida, got a letter as a freshman, whatever. I knew a little about the game. And I tried to coach him the best I could. I wasn't a very good coach. He ran across a guy named Walt Tomoka, who was a businessman in Denver and a graduate of Rutgers and a baseball fanatic and a great baseball coach. I mean, great baseball coach. Every fundamental. And he took Brendan. He coached 2 teams at one time, by the way. He took Brendan and turned him into an all-star type pitcher and a top RBI guy in one season. Mm-hmm. And it all was Walt and the coaching and the technique and the practice. I mean, he would hit batting practice. He would pitch batting practice, literally himself, for an hour and a half without stopping in the sweat. And just a wonderful man. God rest his soul. He got hit by a FedEx truck and killed on the same week Florida played the Fiesta Bowl in Phoenix. And he had been home in Hawaii, and I invited him to go with me to Phoenix. And he thought about going and changed his mind, stayed home, and was killed by a truck. But Walt Tomoka, wherever you are, my friend, if Japan wins, this is for you because it makes him very happy. That his home country, although he was American, and he would be very proud. He loves Suzuki and some of the Japanese players. So for that reason, if I want the United States to win, I'll pull for it. But if they don't, I will be happy for Walt Tomoka. God bless you all. So I want to say that. Mm-hmm. All right. Is that okay with you?
That's good. And I bet, it's probably about 10, 15 a.m. tomorrow morning in Tokyo. I bet it's a ghost town. I bet all of Japan is glued to their TV sets right now. And no work is getting done today in Tokyo or anywhere else, at least till this game is over.
There you go. All right. Let's talk about, I had a discussion last night. By the way, another RIP tonight. A well-known man here in Ocala, and really well-known all over the country, a billionaire, trucking industry. He built World Equestrian Center. He had a facility in Wellington, and he was really known for all of what he did. 77 years old. Larry Roberts died this week. Really shocking to a lot of people. 77, so RIP. Condolences to their family. It seems like we've had so many of these in my age lately. It seems like, so RIP to them. All right, so let's talk about a little bit about. I had this discussion with David Moulton, who I have a great respect for, by the way. And he does a great job on this show and his own show. And he and I have had this, we talked about some of the things going on with, with Florida and at Florida. And I mentioned that Shane Matthews had been on the show and said the reports were out of spring practice. I said, look, we don't get any news. We don't know. We don't get to see them more than 10, 15 minutes, and then you don't see anything. And I mentioned this to Shane, and Shane said, well, I've had a number of my friends, meaning former players, who went there and saw Graham Mertz and said he's really looking good, right? I mean, I don't know how much news you get. I don't get much about that. Mm-hmm. So I mentioned it, and I mentioned it to David. And by the way, David and I like to argue sometimes. And he proceeded to tell me he didn't really care. It meant nothing to him. He didn't want to do anything to hype Florida. They didn't deserve it. And that as far as he was concerned, it didn't even matter. And I said, well, don't you do a show here in Florida and Naples? And he's like, yeah, but I'm not talking about them. They don't deserve it. And I'm not going to get into the hype. I said, David, I wasn't hyping it. I was just telling you what a guy said, about what was going on and what the progress were. Well, it's not worth that. And I'm never going to hype them again or whatever. Okay. Well, all right. I said, excuse me and then we got into a little tete-a-tete, whatever. And I get it that some people think many of us are homers, and I confess that I am many times, but I'd like to think I have just a little objectivity left, what I say, and I wouldn't say something to hype a team, but anyway, so we had that discussion, and then Francis and I followed it up, and I don't want to put you in the middle of it, but your thoughts about something like that, and you have to walk the line. You're against you're the local Gainesville. Well, you're not local, but you do cover Gainesville, and people might say they said Jack Harrison was a homer, and they say, well, David, you're a homer. Well, you cover the team. That's the team you cover, the one you're at. And, if you like to write some positive things about him, right? Wouldn't you rather write some positive things about him? So how do you come off on that?
Well, yeah, it's sort of it's always been an interesting, it's not a dilemma, but a situation when you are in the hometown of the thing. The guy that comes to mind to me is Bob Hamill, who used to cover in Indiana for Bloomington. Mm-hmm. And, Bob Knight was notorious with the media, and so, but Bob Hamill knew that if he had to cover Indiana because that's what you talk about a religion. That's what everybody wanted to know about there. And the only way he could do it was to ingratiate himself to Bob Knight, and he became that and he was a homer, and he wrote a lot of great things, but it got him access that he wouldn't have had otherwise, and he couldn't. And I think his readers benefited in the long run. But things have changed a bit from those days. You even if I wanted to be a homer and ingratiate myself to Billy Napier, I don't think I'd get any more access than anybody else. Access it's a totally different ball game now. Like you said, even getting into practice or getting them just to, you can develop some relationships, but it's not the way it used to be, where people will whisper and tell you really what's going on. It's much more difficult these days. Yeah, you have to balance it, because a total homer, you lose your credibility. If all you do is write nice things and you ignore the negative, you can't tell people that they didn't see what they saw. If one example that there've been a lot of glaring examples with the football team the last couple of years. You can't come back after like that Sanford game 2 years ago and say, the defense, it had a bad, but they're I mean, there have been the last couple of years football wise, you have to be objective and say this is bad, but you can do it in a way that isn't just negative, just incessantly I'm fed up with this kind of thing, and there's a way to spin it to make it where it doesn't, you still give people some hope, that yeah, things are bad. You can, it's the whole glass half empty, half full. Like it'd be easy to say, oh, Billy Napier's a bad hire right now, and Todd Golden hadn't done anything. I think you have to just be honest and say, yeah, they haven't done as well as people expected, but you got to give them the opportunity to do it. I think I don't think that's being a homer. I think that's just being objective and being fair. Now, if we were saying, come on, people, you can't say they're great hires. Nobody can say they're great hires just yet. I mean, the jury's the fair way with somebody is to say the jury's still out, as opposed to saying I don't want to talk about them at all. People are fed up. You just want to reflect what people, what's really going on out there.
Yeah.
And that's the way you can maintain your credibility.
Yeah, well said. And standing by in the Orange and Blue Room in a minute, we'll get him in. Dan Bond, he writes a terrific blog on gymnastics, and he does it with a little bit of fervor as a fan. Right? And he uses words, and we probably wouldn't do if we was reporting like wonderful and great and whatever. But he describes it so well, and sometimes we take that out of our stories. I used to say, what is it about a game we can go to and see 80,000 people there, and we can write 1,000 words, take all the joy out of it while we write. Just shoot it all down. Whatever it may be. Right. We have. But I mean, look, I got the most beautiful note from a friend of mine. I'm going to write about it because I'm going to be honest about this. My people, quote unquote, these people who watch this show and who read Gator Bait, they come there for a little different take. They want to know, they want to know what you think the truth is. They want you to embrace and give them a little hope. You're not going to lie to them and tell them they look great. We know that. But there are people who really, really do. And I got this wonderful note, and from a friend. I'm going to write about it. He pointed out, and this is the essence of it. Look, he says, we treat the Gators like our children, okay? We want them to succeed, but we know they're going to have failures at the same time. And when they fail, we don't disown them. We get mad at them, whatever. And he made a really, really great point. He said, why I read Gator Bait is that it embraces that concept. And it's like being one, that we're all together in this. And I want to feel that when I read something, and I want to be able to think that the people who are writing it have some level of interest in trying to bring out positives when they can. Anyway, it's a really terrific letter. I may use it. So it's a little different for us. So, all right, before I bring Dan on here real fast, David, I want you to give me your take on the new coach hired. Did you hear about that? Mm-hmm. Fired, I mean? Not fired. I'll get it right. Not fired. I'll get it right. What happened is that the University of Florida, I get my notes here, one of the coaches left to go to Miami. All right. And it's a running back coach. I have this in my notes, and I think my notes dissipated online. But anyway, I'm going to get his name in a minute, and you guys know what I'm talking about. Well, all my
Running back
notes.
coach.
Yeah, assistant running back coach. Yeah.
What's
Okay.
supposed to happen
Here,
today?
I've got it. Here it is. Benedict Hippolyte accepted the
Okay.
position of Miami's coaching staff in attendance at the Kings spring practice today. That was online. Breaking story. I don't know Benedict Hippolyte. Good for him, I guess. And I don't have any thoughts on it, but it is like, what is it, the fourth coach? All
Well,
that staff?
I don't know if he was one of the 10 full-time. I mean,
No, he was.
I think he was
He
one.
was.
Yeah, he was one of the 95 other staff members or
Mhm.
120 other staff members.
Mhm.
So yeah, I frankly I couldn't tell you whether they did a good job. Obviously, they had a pretty good running back uh, uh, production last year. Now, how much he had to do, I don't. I think I could coach a couple of those guys.
Yeah.
Um, and so, I mean, this isn't like you're losing your offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
He probably just got a better a better offer. He's not. I doubt he's got a full time gig there, but just a better offer. To be an analyst there, and good for him.
Yeah. I think
I don't
that's
think this is the
exactly
kind
what
of
it
thing
was.
that really sets anybody back
Right.
on thing. I mean, it's certainly not a scale of changing to defensive offense coordinators at this point.
Anytime somebody goes to a rival school, you think it's more
Yeah.
than this. Anyway, there's a big number. Here's today's big number. And by the way, stand by. We're going to I want you to give me your opinion about Trinity Thomas and what's going on with her. But the number today is today's big number. There are 616 Division I men's basketball scholarship players in the transfer portal, and some of them are Florida's. C.J. Felder's the latest one. So think about that for a second. Let me play this, and we'll bring in Dan. I want you to talk about Trinity.
When you're a member of the Gator Nation, you know what it means to never back down. Meldon Law has been a proud supporter of the Gator Nation since 1971. Two forces that won't back down. As the old saying goes, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em.
All right, Meldon Law, let's go and find our friend down here. And Dan Bond is working out in Dallas-Fort Worth. He was supposed to be on last night to talk about what happened over the weekend, but he had to close up last night. And nice he has to close up. He gets off too late. But tonight he's with us. Say hello to David. Dan, you look like you're awfully tall, Dan. Can you bring your camera?
I need to let me my head here.
There you go. Say hi to David. And there's Dan Bond in
Hello,
Dallas.
Dan.
Hello, how are you doing, David?
It's fine.
Great. Enjoy your work.
I'm glad to talk gymnastics because that's something that we don't have to go him and haw about and say, well, the jury's still out. We don't know. They're losing coaches. No, I mean it's nothing but sunshine and roses with the gymnastics team.
There is no doubt that they are on the way for a national championship. Trinity Thomas is just rolling. I went to the Oklahoma meet, and they did some resting that week. So they kind of threw in the towel, I think, for that meet to save for later. And then they had that quad meet here in Dallas. And I thought they would rest some folks there, but they wanted to get that experience of the four teams at one time, which I think everything is really lining out because now you see in the SEC championship tournament that they just tore it up. I mean, high scores, 2 10s from Trinity. Such an excellent athlete to watch. If you haven't seen her, tune in. You only have 4 more chances to watch her, 4 or 5 more chances to watch her. So definitely tune in and watch her. This is somebody who can do things that no one else can do. When you watch her jump on those beams and on the bars, I mean, she just does stuff that you just can't do. You watch these other smaller schools like a Missouri or an Arkansas, and they just don't have the horses to compete for sure.
Where would you rank her in the pantheon of Florida gymnasts? Because I've only been here a couple of years and seeing her, and I've seen the names of the great ones in the past. I know they've had some, it's just hard for me to fathom that anybody is better than her.
Well, Bridget Sloan is up there for sure. I'd say she was 1A for me because she has the 3 titles.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say if Trinity can capture one this year, she'll definitely take over that spot. I mean, Trinity has the individual accomplishments with the 10s and the 9.975s. She's about doubled up what Sloan had in that category where you almost had a 10. But really, Trinity is just so special. If you've seen her live, she's also a little bit bigger than the rest of the girls, so she's able to do some of those giant leaps. Watching her warm up on the floor, where she's just looks like she's just walking along, and she does one of those backflips, just warming up,
Mm-hmm.
like you and I walking down the street. I was like, oh my god, can't imagine doing that.
Yeah, Corey. I mean, she's a headliner, but I mean, they've got a murderer's row underneath her if everybody is healthy and on their game.
Right.
And that's the key, is just peaking at the right time.
Yeah, they're still down. Savannah Shohair didn't play or didn't compete this year, and she was an All-American. And Leah Clapper just recently came back a little bit, and she's an All-American. They're both going to be gone after this season. And then you have Morgan Hurd tore her ACL and has been kind of halfway there this season. So the future's bright. DiCello broke Trinity's freshman SEC record for SEC Freshman of the Week. So, I mean, who knows? She might do more things than Trinity does. So who knows? Records are meant to be broken. And I mean, Trinity's 10 record probably will hold for quite some time, because the old record is, I want to say, from early 90s, maybe even earlier than that. I forget exactly what year that was for the young lady that she's going to beat.
I got to break in with this. I got to break in with this news. The Gators just scored a run. They're up 6-5 over FSU in the 8th inning. So that game is turned around for the Gators. And Dan, I'm going to let you go, but don't forget to read Dan. He's got terrific articles. I enjoy reading them. He's teaching me about it, and he does a great job. He's going to be at the Nationals coming up, and he knows this sport like very few people do. And congratulations on all your great work, Dan Bond.
Thank you for the opportunity, and tune in Thursday for those regional meets. Florida should have a good chance of getting out. They've only have like Cal in their bracket. And watch OU, and Norman has a couple of tough teams in that division. If Kentucky and Bama can fire up a big score, it'd be nice to leave Oklahoma at home and not have to deal with them in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan Bond. Sure appreciate it, buddy. Talk to you soon. Good stuff. Keep it going. All right. Guy's really done an amazing job. He really has, for a guy that is not a writer. I mean, he has just done some beautiful stuff. I'm going to do this. I'm going to bring this guy in here, and then he's going to give a trivia question, and we're going to talk for a minute, and I'm going to let you get out of here, David, if you'd like, and go watch some of whatever you're going to watch. But Lauren Meadows, I just want to say once again, condolences to Lauren and his family. He lost his mom recently. I know he was up in Ohio for her going home, and he's back. And Lauren, I hope you're okay, buddy. And once again, our condolences to your family. I know you had a big turnout for your mom's funeral.
Yeah, it was a huge turnout. Probably 650 people came through the receiving and all that, and then another close to 500 stayed for the memorial service. So it was definitely a celebration of life. It was solemn at times, but we kind of left on a bang. My mother was a big fan of line dancing, so as everybody kind of left the ballroom at the Marriott where we had her memorial, they were doing the Cupid Shuffle, if you've ever seen that dance. So so it was definitely left on a good note. Her sorority sisters did a nice job of honoring her as well. And yeah, it was just turned out to be a very joyous occasion. And a lot of people came far and wide for Mom, and turned out nice.
And I had the good fortune to meet her and know her, have dinner with her. What a lady.
Yeah.
I told Lauren, I had a great we had a great conversation. She's a
Yes,
very intelligent lady. She had quite a background. She spent how many years at Duke? 25 or something?
I think She was at Duke from '93 to 2001.
Well,
And
that was a long time.
and fun fact, we lived in the same subdivision that the Spurriers lived in when he was the head coach at Duke. So
how about that?
So when she met Jerry, they kind of talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, she was awesome. So, all right, so it's 7-5 now. Gators still batting in the eights and the top eight. So Gators rallying there. And all right, now David, are you good at you're pretty good at trivia, right? We're not going to let you. We're not going to let you, huh?
Yeah.
He might get
this question. I'm really good at trivia.
This was kind of a softball. We'll see.
Yeah, you can't. You can text David the answer. You can't tell him. So let's go ahead and give the trivia, and then we'll talk about some other things, and we'll later tell you if you got it right.
Lauren Meadows with Gator Bait Media here, coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill with Tuesday Night Trivia. We got a pretty easy one for you tonight. In lieu of baseball season and softball season, and both teams getting off to a pretty good start, when was the last time that both baseball and softball were SEC champs in the same year? Be the first to answer, and you'll be entered into our monthly drawing for swag and other prizes. With Gator Bait Media, this is Lauren Meadows.
All right, so thank you to Freddie Weeby and the team out there for hosting all that stuff and for giving away a prize. Well, David, you may have an idea, but don't say it out loud. All right. Mm-hmm. Now I got a call. I told Lauren it was 3 or 4 days ago, who said, "Buddy, I got a question for you. Yeah, Mr. Gator History Man. Yeah, when's the last time the Gator football team and basketball team had losing seasons?" I said, "Well, Coach, I think that would be 1979. He didn't like that. I got it right away. But
I knew that one too.
Yeah. That was really not a tough question. I just happened to have read it recently, so that's why I knew I remember. But I'm terrible at many dates or numbers. I just don't remember them. So, David, tell us what you're writing about this week and what you're looking for with this Gator football team. That the next story. I know that there was an interview today with Corey Raymond. I'm looking forward to our guy Matt doing a piece on him because he's a guy I find very interesting and I want to know more about. And he's got the whole secondary, and I think that should make a difference. What do you think, David?
Yeah, I mean, he was considered the big get of assistant coaches last year. With what he had done at LSU, and it was an odd thing. He was coaching corners last year, Patrick Toney safeties, and I obviously it didn't go as well as people wanted. And there were a lot of reasons behind that, but it's sort of, I think it's good that it's all with him now, and we'll see what he can do with that secondary. As far as what I'm writing, Kyle Trask. We remember that name, Kyle Trask.
Yeah, I've been having that one. I had that one in my bag. I was working on. Yeah,
yeah, because they bought in Baker Mayfield this week, and it's an interesting situation there. And there was this grand plan. You figured Kyle would get down there, study a couple of years under the GOAT, and maybe hand the reins to him. But obviously, it's not working out quite that way because they're certainly not handing the reins to him. And people pretty much assume that it's Baker Mayfield's job, and they say there'll be an open competition. So if it is, this is open competition that Kyle needs to take advantage of, because if he's not ready now, you wonder if he'll ever be ready.
How do you all feel about that?
Well, with Brady there, obviously it wasn't open competition. Best he was going to do was be the backup. But the worrisome sign, if you're a Kyle Trask fan, I think everybody in this audience is that they bought in another Blaine Gabbert the first year to be the backup, which you could sort of understand. But they kept Gabbert around last year as well, and I think Kyle still has probably he only has 10 snaps in the NFL so far. So even though they've been saying, as recently as the combine, that he's our man, we feel good about it, that just sounded more like GM speak, and they go out and it's not a surprise they bought in another quarterback, but and Baker Mayfield, it's not like they bought in Lamar Jackson or somebody who it's obviously he's going. I mean, this is a chance for him I mean, it's probably Baker Mayfield's job to lose, but he can lose it. I mean, Brady wasn't going to lose his job, unless Giselle stabbed him or something like that. So
which, by the way, could have happened.
Yeah, it could have happened. Yeah, and so I mean, God, it's I hate to say it, it seems like it's pretty much now or never. Once training camp starts, that he's had it's going on 2+ seasons in that system now, and even they got a new offensive coordinator, but the apprentice days are over, and now it's time to get out there and show what you can do.
Florida 9-5 now. Gators are pulling away with it. Yeah.
The thing about it too is, like, at some point in time, it's like Dave said, you spend a second round pick on him. I mean, it's now or never. And I mean, I was, I mean, like he said, Baker Mayfield is not necessarily going to set the world on fire. I told somebody I wouldn't be surprised if Trask beats him out. Now, I'm not sure what kind of teammate Baker Mayfield will be if that happens. So I kind of feel bad for Trask in that regard, because I think Blaine Gabbert has kind of helped Trask out a little bit. You see them kind of talking a lot on the sideline, but Baker Mayfield doesn't strike me as a sit and be pleasant kind of guy. So it'll be interesting to see, the dynamic that creates, going forward. But I think once given the chance and given the snaps with the ones, it's kind of like the same thing here. Once Kyle Trask really got the keys to the kingdom, he took off, and I really think he's going to be a little better than people think. Now, they may give it to Baker Mayfield on the strength of experience and things like that, but I think he, I think that if it's just on the field product, I think Trask can certainly give Baker Mayfield a run for his money.
Well, you like to think poetic justice will rule, and that the guy waited his term to get a chance, and that he earned it, and he certainly earned that. And then they bring in Baker Mayfield. Well, that's the cutthroat business of college football, of pro football. They don't care. It doesn't matter. You don't earn anything. You have to keep it. You can put it in your back pocket and walk off with it.
Right.
I like Kyle. And someone brought up to me that, excuse me, what might be against him is the style of quarterback he is. They're going for the Kyler Murrays these days, not the big stand-up, drop-back guys. Apparently, if you look at you look at what's going on in Kansas City and all these other franchises with these fast, phenomenal athlete quarterbacks. Kyle's not that. The question is, can you win that way anymore? I don't know, David. Can you?
Well, that's not, you're right. That's not the way the NFL has evolved in the last few years. And, he moves around the pocket well, but he's never going to, break out of the pocket and get you 20, 30 yards and be a running threat. And that is a problem. And, his arm is okay, but it's not a cannon. Mayfield's got a really good arm and he's mobile, but, as Lauren alluded, his reputation is something of a, he's a cocky snot. Although he says he's learned, and he'll be a good. He's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. But one advantage they have is that they, from the Buck standpoint, it was a good investment because they're only paying him like $4 million, which obviously that's not bad money for one of us, but it's chump change for a quarterback. So it's not as if they bought in a guy that the franchise has invested in and say, we got to get this guy out on the field. And it's just a 1-year deal. So, I mean, basically you have two quarterbacks that are out that have a lot to prove out there.
Is the column written or is it run tomorrow?
It's half written. It'll run in Thursday's paper.
Okay.
And the other thing interesting coming up is on Saturday, Graham Mertz will actually emerge and speak to the media.
Yeah.
No, that ain't happening.
I swear. They say
it's a myth. That ain't happening.
All three quarterbacks. All three.
Yeah.
He's a mute. He's a mute. He can't talk.
Yeah. We just heard this stuff. Frankly, I am not sure he actually exists. Until I see him in the room.
I think you might be onto something. I don't think he's even there. So it's
so I'm just going to want to go confirm it just to see that this isn't just some shiny object that they have just to take our attention off Jack Miller or something like this. Okay.
Get our picture and show us. Like Howard Hughes. They used to get a picture of Howard Hughes. Well, David, I know it'll be a terrific column as most everything you write. Sure appreciate your time and effort. And you be good, my friend. We'll talk to you next week, same time, same station, unless you have a new contract and You want a different deal, and I'll come up with the same stuff, the champagne and caviar you get every week. Now, Lauren has to settle for burgers from Spurrier's. You get the caviar and champagne, but it's okay.
Yeah.
He's working his way up. He's a junior
You'll
member.
have the right of, whatever I get, you have the right to match. It's sort of like, I'm a restricted free agent. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're number one with us.
Well, have a good one.
Thank you,
have
David. I do appreciate it. Thank you much. If you haven't read David, you need to. He's very clever and he's an excellent writer, reporter, and he'll fool you and come up with one once in a while. Give you a little chin music. All right, Lauren. I don't know if we're going to go into the trivia yet. You got some comments here. Michael Merton said beautiful photographs on Facebook. Dan Bond, great to see you, Lauren. Yeah, I saw it. David Van Der said, "Look what's happening." Yeah, Florida's up now 9-5. Yep, and so I started off the program by saying not much is going on in sports. It seems like very quiet these days, these nights. That's all right, and when that happens, we venture off into other parts of conversations, which we were doing. David and I were doing earlier. We were talking about if he was a comedian, who would he be? And I think we finally settled on Bob Newhart would be a good one for him. So, talk to me about this football team. I know you're just getting back into it. You saw the running back coach is going to Miami. No biggie, I don't think, but still, what's your feeling about the tempo? I wrote a piece last week, which got quite a run, about the fact that, okay, it's enough of the losing seasons, enough of losing, these NIL deals, whatever. Let's get on about it. And, and having said that, there are some positives. And this is a few positives. So where do we stand right now?
Well, I went to, like I said, I went to practice, today. And, I wanted to watch, obviously, I focused on the Guru. The Guru's back. And I want to make note of something. It's not just that Billy Gonzalez is back, but there's a different tenor to the receiver group, which I think is going to, improve the overall standard of the offense. I think with Graham Mertz, I think it's going to be better than advertised. Jack Miller looks good as well. But I think the receivers are going to present themselves for the quarterbacks in a different light than they did last year. And I think you're going to see more of an edge to this receiver group. Obviously, Billy Gonzalez stresses blocking, which is going to help, but you can already see, and frankly, it's going to take some getting used to, I think, for some of those guys, because, there was, without, I know we're not supposed to say what we necessarily heard, so there's a learning curve that I think these young men, from going from Kerry Colbert to Billy Gonzalez, will have to start to understand. And what I would encourage them to do, is to reach out to a Dallas Baker, to a Bubba Caldwell, to a Lewis Murphy, Riley Cooper, a Trayvon Grimes, Kadarius Toney, and really understand what Billy Gonzalez can mean to a young man that eventually wants to get paid to do this, and paid a lot of money and those kind of things. So, as the days go on, obviously they'll get used to it. This was their first practice with Coach Gonzalez, but I think that you're going to see a different tenor with the receiver group, a little bit more nasty to them. That you can already see. Billy Gonzalez was out there working right off the bat. He was, you could tell a palpable difference in the group, for sure.
What we know about him is he wants every one of his receivers to block. They got to block or they can't play.
Got to block. Yeah.
We also know he is a fiend for detail.
Yes.
He everything exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking one time to Kerwin Bell, who spent a little time with Spurrier at Florida. And he said one of the things he learned, like I said this to you, one of the things that he learned from Spurrier was his attention to detail, his receivers' landmarks. You better be on your landmarks. You played the position,
right.
You coached the position, You see
Yes,
those
sir.
disciplines on like landmarks, running really good routes and selling the route even when you're not the target, selling the route to make it all work, all things.
Right.
I think this is what Billy brings. And it also is a certain air of confidence those receivers have. I think
Right.
that, they just feel like they know where they're going to go. And there were times last year when I thought there was some two receivers in one area, and it didn't seem like it was, you know
Yes.
what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know Kerry
Yeah.
Colbert's a good coach and all that, but anyway, give me your thoughts about that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that that's the thing. A good receiver coach should be able to close his eyes, and when the whistle blows, look up, and you can tell who's wrong just by where they are on the field. I don't care if they were finishing a route, slowing down, because you should always understand what's coming in front of you, what's coming behind you as a receiver. And like you said, there was a couple times guys in the same area or, just miscommunication, things like that. And like I said, I think a lot of that is going to be eliminated simply because, Billy Gonzalez has been so many different places, from Colorado State to LSU to Mississippi State to just with Urban, with Dan. I mean, and so when you have that knowledge of so many different offensive systems, you understand that what you're trying to accomplish, from an offensive standpoint, and where your receivers fit into that. And that, I think that that's where, he just going to, like you said, the attention to detail is, like I said, it is already palpable. And then, I mean, they were doing a release drill and hand placement and all those things. I mean, literally an inch too high, an inch too low. And I mean, he was already preaching those things, and that's the way you have to be. The great ones at the receiver position were that detailed, and that's where you're going to see it pay dividends. I mean, the same thing that gets you beat, if you correct it, can win you football games. And I think that that's something that he just, I think, brings a certain standard to that group. Billy Napier doesn't have to worry about him. He knows he's got him. And like I said, I mean, he was already getting after it. I mean, it was,
Good to know. And the other thing is that it gives your quarterback a great deal of confidence. We talked about this last week.
Sure.
When you go back, I mean, just a little bit of time I spent playing high school, which I was not much of a quarterback. But when you want to know that the guy is where you're supposed to, when you throw the football with more confidence. Because you expect him to, let's just be honest, we throw it to a space sometimes. We don't throw it to the man.
Yeah.
And so, you throw it where they would put a touch on it, and the guy, if he ran the right route, he's there, then it builds up your confidence in what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So that would make a big difference for Mertz and Miller to know that guys like, the other receivers, Jaquavion Frazier's, whoever you want to pick out of that crowd.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, have you seen anything from the receivers that you like? Besides, obviously, Pearsall?
Well, I'll say this. Even he was even getting on Pearsall, which is a good thing, because even Ricky can improve. But I do. I like Frazier's. I think Frazier's is coming along. Got a lot of confidence. He was starting to come on until he got hurt in that Texas A&M game.
Yeah.
So I like Frazier's. He had a big grab in the Texas A&M game, and I think was kind of ready to take that next step. I still like Douglas. Andy Jean as a freshman.
A lot of talk about Andy Jean. People are talking a lot about him.
I mean, still raw, but a worker. A worker, coachable. I haven't really laid eyes on the tight ends really yet, Toby, but I'm gonna make my way down. If Billy Gonzalez wouldn't have came back, I probably would have checked him out today. But I just have such a
sure.
Affinity for Billy. I just wanted to check him out. But just guys like that, I think they're going to have a nice group. I think a lot of Xavier Henderson. I think he could be effective in some of the things. So I think that I think he I think that just those are some of the household names. But and then I was speaking with somebody when they're talking about the tight ends. Is Arliss Boardingham. Boardingham has been impressive. So he's back out there, and I think he'll give them, that hybrid that I think Billy actually is looking for, that kind of H-back, that second tight end, somebody that can really be effective, particularly in the red zone. I would say a lot of the way like Utah used, Dalton Kincaid a little bit, maybe as that mismatch type of player. So I think, I've heard good things about him. So that's where we are, kind of, as we continue through the spring.
Well, your comments are getting a lot of comments back from people who like what you're saying, the names that you're giving them, and information insight. So that's good. We're going to have a piece on Corey Raymond tomorrow, next day. I thought for the moment I heard they got him, I felt like there was something really significant about that, in my opinion. And I thought, well, this is a guy who could really make a difference because you know what he built in Baton Rouge. And he didn't fit in apparently with, what they were doing in Baton Rouge. And he came here and they got, this is a guy who could help make your team because the cohesion he could have with Austin, who's got his own creeper defense in certain ways he did. And he said the other day, he plays different looks for different teams. If you get the cohesion, the back end, the front end, now you got something. And I think that's what they need, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, we can run down the list of guys for, Honey Badger, Grant Delpit, Stingley Jr., Patrick Peterson. I mean, you name it. I mean, and Corey Raymond is like I said, he's the Don of DB coaches, DBU, whatever you want to call it. And I think him now controlling the whole secondary and working those guys together as a unit, I think is like I said, once again, it should really pay dividends for a defense that needs a shot in the arm. And I think that one of the things that Corey Raymond I think will stress if I know him, they were ball hawks when he was at the university at LSU.
Yeah,
where
that's what I love.
There was some picks and things like that we had some key games last year, but I think where you're really going to see that unit improve is in takeaways.
Go make a play. Go make a play. Get the football. You know what I'm saying?
And get that. Because if you don't maximize the possessions of your offense for an offense that'll probably be a top 20, if not top 10 running game, you got to have possessions because you're not scoring like you do when you're five wides and things like that. And I have no problem with what Billy Napier does. I actually like some of it, but you got to maximize your possessions, which means that you either got to turn it over deep in the opponent's territory. You got to get some turnovers, or you got to maximize your possessions with 3 and outs. And if you remember, and we talked about it at length, a 3rd and 12, which should be, hey, it's time to get off the field and get the punt return team on. It was first downs last year, and that just can't happen this year. So
yeah, for sure.
I think you'll see like you said, a better back end, but also a back end that looks to take the ball away and flip the field on a consistent basis.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so now give us the trivia rundown, and we'll call it.
Okay, so it looked like I don't know this job. I mean, I know he's an avid listener. W. Van Der.
Yeah, he's here a lot.
Was the first out the gate with 2018 is when the last time that both the baseball and softball teams won the SEC.
Okay,
so
there you go. Well, congratulations. Tell him what to do. He's here somewhere.
Well, we're gonna draw now, so I'm gonna close my eyes.
We're gonna draw it now.
Yeah. Pick
wow.
A piece of paper.
Okay. All right.
Let me see what I got. So
I think we should have Miss Marcia in here to do this. I don't know.
I think Miss Marcia's in the bed.
Yeah.
So Brian Joseph is the winner.
Brian Joseph
is the winner of.
Put the word up there. Brian Joseph, you're the winner.
Brian Joseph is the winner. So Brian, if you're listening, or if you watch us on a replay, or I'll send you instant messenger. We'll need your address, and then we can discuss your prize, and we've got some other stuff we can send you as well. So,
yeah, all right. Brian Joseph, you're the winner. Call home.
Call home. Yeah. Don't have to be present to win, but we'll find you. like those fish fry raffles. They take your name and your number, and we'll
Yeah.
get you.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. All right, my friend. Good stuff as always. Right, you won the trivia, and so I'll put this in here. And all right, Lauren, great seeing you. Glad you're back. And
yes, sir.
I'll be talking to you the next couple of days. You be good, my
All
friend.
Right. Yes, sir. And we'll talk soon.
Yes, for sure. Hopefully even tomorrow. All right.
Yeah,
all right.
Absolutely.
All right, Lauren. Thank you. Good night.
Okay.
I want to thank Lauren Meadows and our guest tonight, Dan Bond, and of course David Whitley. Thank all you for listening, and invite you back tomorrow night to hear Brendan. Let's see what happened to us here. Hold on. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.